Well, don't worry, you've not turned into the wrong channel. I'm not going to bake you a cake today. What I'm going to do is show you my favourite cheese paste recipe, which is absolute killer bait for chub. Last year I did a bit of filming catching chub, and I did catch a few good ones that went up on Instagram, and I must have been asked 100 times, what do I put in my cheese paste? So this morning I thought I'm going to show you how I make it and everything I put in it. So ingredients, it might look a little bit over the top, but I like a mixture of cheeses. So I want some Danish blue, some good old English Stilton, mature cheddar, a bit of soft cheese like a Philadelphia, and then I've got a couple of additives, garlic salt I love, asafoetida, hard to say, very good spice, and some extra blue cheese powder. This is kind of bound and held together with some short crust pastry ready made, and if I need to stiffen it, we've got some white breadcrumb. First thing to do is grate up this stinky old cheese. And it really does stink. There's lots of ways to do this, and you know, one thing I've seen is people microwave it all to make it really soft and gooey, and then they've added it all. But I tried that, and I had a bit of a disaster. I ended up, there was too much oil everywhere, and so I like to do it a little bit more of the bit of a slower way, but just grate it all up. You can use the fine grater or the big grater. We're going to mix it all together with our hands. You don't want big old lumps of it, cheddar in there. You want it quite fine, and when you work it with that pastry you can really get it nice and smooth. So what you don't want is a big lump of hard cheese, obviously blocking the hook point when you strike into that lovely chub bite. Well, that's the cheddar grated, the mature cheddar. Now onto the Danish blue and the Stilton. And yeah, there's no place for like Edam and those weak cheeses. You want the mature, stinky stuff. Stinkier the better. And a good time to get it is when it's on the discount kind of shelf, because you know it's by its sell-by date and it will smell even more. So yeah, let's grate this. This stuff really stinks. This is nice and soft. Just work it through. See it crumbling up. It's going to kind of just mix in with that pastry really easily. Onto the blue cheese. There we go. Try not to grate my fingers in. Just the hard rind at the end. Don't put that in. You don't want any hard lumps. There we go, there's our 3 cheeses, nicely grated up. So I'm going to mix them all with my hands to get them really smooth when we mix it with a pastry. So the 3 cheeses grated up. There's about 800 grams of cheese here. Whack that into a big old plastic mixing bowl. Then I'm going to add this ready-made, full-fat, short crust pastry. What pastry does is it keeps that cheese paste nice and soft. Obviously there's lots of fat in here, probably margarine. So unroll that, you get a big slab. Now you can dump the cheese in, but I kind of just mix it all together. And there's about 400 grams of pastry, so double the cheese to pastry is what works for me. And but we have got some stuff to stiffen it if we need. So yeah, it looks like a mess now. Get our hand stuck in now, start working it together. A good time to do this is definitely when your missus or your partner, your wife, is out of the house, because it's really starting to stink now. And you want it room temperature, obviously it's easy to work together. So yeah, we're going to knead this together, and I'm probably going to take a bit of time here, and we'll show you when it's nice and smooth. I've not finished kneading it yet. I'm actually probably about halfway through kneading it, and we're going to add the extra ingredients just to give it more punch. It's all about punch. This is blue cheese powder, and it really stinks, just stinks like socks you've had on for about 4 weeks. We're going to go in with a good, probably like a tablespoon of that stuff, maybe a bit more. Then we're going to add some of this, a bit of a secret spice. It's afatida, and it's in some of the best boilies on the market, and you can get it in the supermarket. The oil is very expensive, but if you can get some oil, even better. Good sprinkle of this. Basically sort of smells of roasted onions and curry. And then my favourite, yeah, it really stinks now, my favourite one to add is some garlic salt. I use this in quite a lot of baits. I think all fish like garlic salt, even perch like garlic, I've heard on lures. So a good sprinkle of this. And then just to make it a bit smoother, some full fat Philadelphia. You have to be a bit careful with this because you don't want your cheese paste being too soft, but this gives it a nice smooth consistency. And what you've got to remember is this time of year the water's getting colder and colder, so your cheese paste might be soft here, put it into the river and it goes hard, and you don't want that. You want it to stay soft, so you want it a little bit over soft, and this helps. I used to use margarine, but you might as well use extra cheese. So a good dollop of that. And if it needs to be softer, we'll just put some more in at the end. So more kneading, lots of kneading, both hands. I need to get it on the board. Right, as you can see, it's getting a little bit sticky, which is fine because obviously it's warm in here. We've got lights on as well. So I'm just going to add some simple, if I can get the lid off, just some breadcrumbs, white breadcrumbs, dry. These are really fine. You don't want like tempura breadcrumbs or anything fancy like that. Just some cheap, fine breadcrumbs. You can get it from the tackle shop as well. Let's just put a good sprinkle in. This will just stiffen it a bit. And obviously bread crumbs can absorb water, so it's not going to make it harder once you're fishing with it. So we're starting to get there. This is a big old batch that's going to last me several sessions, maybe all winter. I don't tend to feed cheese paste. Some people do. Some people break a bit off and chuck it in. I don't tend to. I think it's just a big single hook bait, and I want them to smell it and come upstream and eat it, or hopefully plonk it in the right area. One thing I don't add, some people do, is some colouring. You can make this pink if you wanted, but some people like to add white or yellow. I like the natural sort of off-white, greeny, mouldy colour. That's the colour I'm confident with. That's looking good now. Lovely ball, freshly made cheese paste, easy to make. Need a good few minutes kneading it to get it to nice smooth consistency. It's nice and soft. You can see that. I can just pull a piece off. It will firm up. Obviously we're going to put it in the fridge. Like I say, you do not want it hard. That's a mistake people make. You won't hit fish, you'll just strike into the hard cheese, and the fish don't want it hard. You want this oozing out attractions. You want it soft and soluble. There we go, nice finished ball. I'm going to break this into, I'm never going to take this with me for a few hours chub fishing, or even a day's chub fishing. So I'll probably break this into 3 or 4 boards. We'll wrap that up into bags and it will go in the freezer. The good thing about this is it gets better, I believe, once it's been frozen, and I'm happy to refreeze it in between each session. And I always think at the end of the season, when it's probably been in the freezer 5, 6, 7 times, it's at its best. I think it stinks. Some people keep it in a bag in their car, but it, yeah, it's gone. They call it like vintage cheese paste, but I don't like the skin it forms on it. So I just freeze it in between sessions, and yeah, it gets better and better, more smellier. Perfect. Just bagging these up into four bags. Really happy with this. It smells great. Come out nice and smooth. Like everything, worth taking a little bit of trouble and time over, worth doing properly, not skimping with any old cheeses. Use the best stuff. You want the best bait out there to catch lots of fish. That's the last ball. Yeah, can't wait to give it a go.
Why don't you then?
What's the time? Well, we've got a couple of hours of light left, so the river's in flood. Why not? Let's go out, see if we can catch one quickly on it.